Welcome to the Mother-Daughter Empower podcast, a show that provides moms with the tips, tools, and resources that they need to raise the next generation of empowered girls. I'm your host, Tara Filto. Now let's get started. Hi everyone, and thank you so much for being on the Mother-Daughter Empower show. Today's guest is my good friend, Jo Mazgay. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited because today's topic is boundaries. It's an important one. But before we dive into boundaries, I just wanted to talk a little bit about you, Jo, because you are a goddess. And
Thank you.
You're also the founder and creator of West Coast Souls, as well as the creator of Generation Empowered, which is an organization that inspires youth to be the change that they seek. So I thought that you could share a little bit more as we start this conversation. Why did you start Generation Empowered and how that came about?
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. It's always fun to chat with you. Generation Empowered it really grew organically. It wasn't something I had set out to create. West Coast Soul, if I'm completely honest, I started in 2016 with a line of t-shirts with the I Am logo, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And through West Coast Soul, I really love running women's circles. I really love connecting with women. I really love bringing back connection because, especially with COVID, there's a real isolation to being a woman right now, especially a new mom. Brene Brown has really brought shaming to the forefront and all of these things that we kind of hide behind. And what I learned running women's circles is many stories come from very similar experiences, backgrounds, issues they've had in their childhood. When you look at high school is like a 4 or 5 year stint, a very small part of your life, but extremely impactful. Mm-hmm. So I was speaking with a good friend of mine, Amanda, who is my co-founder of Generation Empowered. She's an EA in the Catholic School Board. She's a phenomenal woman. And I said, instead of being reactive, how do we become proactive with these kids? How do we teach them their worth beforehand, their boundaries beforehand, and how to be proud of who they are as opposed to shamed for it? And that is how it grew. And we started with girls, only because girls are, generally speaking, and still are, the more vulnerable of the sexes. Mm-hmm. But as a mom of 3 girls and a boy, what I learned very quickly, and I know you can relate to this because I know your children, my son wanted to come to all the girl programs. So we said, okay, let's run a boys program. And my daughter's going, well, I'm doing that. Mm-hmm. And we kind of had to look at that and go, why are we separating them in this era where we're coming really strong into inclusion, when we're really trying to normalize LGBTQ issues? Why are we still separating the sexes? Because if my daughter wants to build, let her build. And if my son wants to be in tune with his feelings and emotions, then he needs to do that too. And so it was a real organic creation, and we came together week after week, month after month with these kids, and they're just so inspiring and they're so open. And we've sat down as we've been growing, what's really impacting them, what's been working, what are they asking for? Because they will ask. If you ask a kid, what do they need? They're not afraid to tell you. And so we are going into, starting this Monday, our 3rd month of the online virtual series of Generation Empowered, and we will have 12 kids signed up.
I love it. Amazing. Yeah. The work that you do is so important. So I kind of want to jump right into boundaries. Yes. And there's so many different aspects of boundaries when you think about boundaries with your friends, with your family, with your sexuality, whatever that may be, depending on your child's age. But here specifically at Mother-Daughter Empower, we're really looking at that age group for girls ages 7 to 14. So where do you start when it comes to boundaries when we're looking at those different aspects?
The first thing we have to look at is, what are they exposed to, right? When I was 7 years old, I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have Facebook till I was 30. Excuse me. I didn't have access to what kids have access to now. So they're getting more information coming at them. They're getting more influences coming at them. There are social media influencers paid to tear them apart so that they will buy their products, you know? So the first place we start as is we have a really open conversation with the kids and we follow their energy. Generally, I find the conversation goes to knowing you're worthy of boundaries. Knowing you're allowed to say yes or no. Knowing you are worthy of having a relationship, a friendship, any type of relationship that gives you respect back, or you don't have to engage. And once we teach them that they're worthy of these boundaries, they automatically start looking. But then the flip side is we also have to tell them you don't get to say no to mom for chores. You don't get to, you know, start creating boundaries around all these things. You're still part of a family. However, you get some ownership, some self-control, some self-direction about what is working for you. And things like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, everything is on there. So teaching them, you don't have to take this in. You don't have to do what she's doing. What works for you? And then let's work around that. And if something isn't working for you, then you don't have to follow that. You don't have to have 20 likes to be worthy of something. If you're putting something out and it's authentic, you have the right to stand behind it. And if somebody doesn't like it, you have the right to put the boundary up that doesn't affect you because you're authentic. Which is something we were never taught. I was never taught.
Yes. So would you say when it comes to boundaries, there's a lot of internal feeling, like really sitting
so much
with whatever decision you make or whatever's going on and thinking about, does this feel good or does it not feel good?
So much around what feels right for me, giving them a sense of ownership of themselves, their bodies, their feelings, knowing that within their boundaries, who they can talk to, right? If I can't first get to mom or dad, who's my next line? And then who's my next line? So boundaries are also your safety lines, right? I feel like I look good in this shirt. I can go to my mom for validation and then she can yay or nay it. I can go then to, you know, a friend, to a teacher, or if something comes up of conflict, because you want to talk about peer pressure, we didn't have social media. So when we're talking about boundaries in there, if something has happened, who's got your back on your boundaries? Who can I go to and say, Mom, I need help. Tara, I need help. This mentor, can you help me establish these boundaries because this is not something I want to be a part of?
So would you suggest that that's probably step one? Okay, I've made this decision, I've made this choice, but I'm not internally sure if it's sitting well. So
I think the first step is I am worthy of making a boundary. Second step is I'm still not 100% sure who's in my bubble and who's going to support me as I stand strong in it. Because at 7, they're still children with access to adult information, and they're trying to process this on a level that's never been done before. And then we also have to say, as a parent, I hear your boundary, I respect your boundary, I have your back with that boundary, and allow them to enforce it. Because the more they do, the more comfortable and confident they will become with it.
So I'm going to ask you as a parent, if they come to us with something that we don't feel that is right or comfortable, and we don't feel comfortable with that boundary that they've set, how do you suggest that we express that without potentially harming or hurting them?
I think the first thing to do is hear them. I hear you. I acknowledge you. Here are my hesitations. Let's talk through this. Does that make sense? Because if the minute we start dismissing them, no, that's not right. This is how our parents did it, and we can't blame our parents. Our parents were taught by their parents, by their parents. We're the generations stopping this. But when you just dismiss it with a no, because I said so, they have no idea why. Mm-hmm. So if you can sit down and say, okay, thank you for trusting me. Let's talk about this, and this is why I don't want to. You're going to go further, because I know that the stronger no I got, the more creative I got. Mm-hmm. And then I was sneaking out and drinking and getting into more trouble had I not had open lines of communication.
And I think you're absolutely right. It all comes down to the communication. And I think, as parents, I'm guilty of it as well. Just far too often, like, no.
Yeah.
You step back and being like, well, let's have a conversation about why I feel like that. I respect that you came to me, and let me explain why I feel like this is not perhaps a good choice.
And to piggyback on that, I'm not a perfect parent. I will have to say, come back to me so that I can process this request and then move forward. Because sometimes it's just instinct to be like, oh, no, you can't do that. No, you're not going out dressed like that or moving forward. But you have to sort of take a breath and be able to come to them in a way that they're going to listen. Because if I just raise my voice and I'm just yelling, my kid is just tuning me out. So now I've got to say, okay, let's sit down. You tell me what you want and why, and let's have this conversation. And it may still be a no, but at least they've had reason.
I love that. I love how you mentioned too, just sometimes as a parent, like taking a deep breath and like asking them to come back in a few minutes and actually take the time to kind of process your
yeah. I have a girl, my daughter's in high school, and she does not want to wear a coat ever. It's -30 and she walks for 30 minutes and I'm going, I just want to throw it at her and say, put on the coat. But I know I'm just going to find it down the street, tossed in a garbage can. So now we're going to have a conversation about, the what could happen if you got frostbite. That's not going to be so pretty. So let's have that conversation. And I think we have to have that conversation so that they can hear it and respect it and make better decisions. Because at the end of the day, we want our children to be independent and make right decisions. And having boundaries, especially as you get into the teenage years, when we come into drugs, drinking, sex, all these things that are already out there, we already have the foundation laid for the trust and the boundaries.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love it. And it's really, you're almost setting that initial boundary between yourself and your child as well, with that trust, that line of communication. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love what I do. And we say this all the time. We do this, the lessons we teach they were the things we weren't actually taught. These were a lot of trial and errors. And even with my oldest daughter, who's 22 now, that poor first child goes through a lot of trial and errors as a parent and going, oh, well, that didn't work very well, or, oh, this worked, I'm going to tuck this away.
Yeah, I think there's so much power in what you mentioned earlier, is that we're trying to be proactive here. That's the whole point, and that's how we'll change within the next generation. And it really starts, from within ourselves, and everything that we're learning now. If our children can learn this at such a young age, what power that has.
It has incredible power. And this is why it's generation empowered. We want them to be empowered to make their decisions, empowered to stand strong in their decisions. One thing I will say as a side note, my children were dancers and are quite confident in their bodies. Mm-hmm. And so they might be really confident going out wearing booty shorts and halter tops, so to speak. And so then what I have to turn around is tell her, where are your boundaries? When you get resistance, how are you going to take that? Are you strong enough to stand in that? Mm-hmm. Are you strong enough to not let that come in, because it's not just a matter of going out in the outfit you want, but you're going to get back energy as you go out there. My son loves pink. Okay, you can wear the pink shirt, absolutely. But if somebody teases you, are you going to be ready to take that? Which he is, and I'm very fortunate. But this is something we have to teach them, not only boundaries for self, boundaries for text, boundaries for social media, but boundaries of what you're going to take in from other people to stand in your confidence.
That's huge. That's a huge step from making that decision, but also are you ready to take on the ultimate snowball effect from
reactions,
that decision.
Yeah.
Powerful.
It's powerful, and what's incredible is when we get them early enough, they take in so much more. They take it to heart. They try it. They haven't had the trauma yet of being teased relentlessly. So we're giving them the tools before it happens, as opposed to trying to coddle them when they're crying and make them feel better. And it's okay. Like, we can come in before, and then when things happen, they can go, oh, this is what we were talking about.
Oh, wow.
It makes a really big difference.
You're really setting them up to succeed in whatever that choice is.
Well, isn't that the goal? You know, we don't want our children to fail. We want our children, whether, you know, no matter what kind of parent we are, we want them to be happy, and we want them to create lives that suit them successfully.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today. You have shared so much very valuable information, and I'm sure that our viewers and our members will really, really appreciate all of the nuggets and advice that you shared today. So thanks again.
Thank you, Tara.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be sharing your website in the interview and the links and whatnot as well for people to find you online, and we'll be tagging you on Instagram. So if anyone wants to reach out, they can reach you that way as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Don't forget to sign up for our free monthly mother-daughter membership, which gives you instant access to our members-only Facebook group, monthly empowerment toolkit, and much more. Sign up today by visiting www.motherdaughterempower.ca. See you soon.